about relationships this afternoon on Kababayan LA. I can only hope that you're picking something up, whether you're already married, you know, you're still in a relationship with your spouse. And so these advices are really, these pieces of advice will really help us. Earlier, before the break, we talked about, you know, similarities and differences and what should be important, you know, having the same taste in music, in food and all that, but then also the core values. What about religion, you know, things that are difficult to talk about? Religion, upbringing, educational background, politics, Benny?
You know, biblically speaking, the Bible tells us not to be unequally yoked, right? And there's very good reason for that you know, why that's there. And it's very, very difficult because, again, it's when you get in that shallow kind of love, you know, you make your compromise. You know, maybe I won't go to church or I won't have, you know, prayer or whatever it is, but only will you recognize the detriments of that, you know, because in time what I've seen happen is instead of you being stronger in your faith, then you're pulled away from the faith, right? And therein lies, again, the give and take of it, but it's critical. If the Bible says already in the beginning, don't be unequally yoked, then there's a good reason why it's there. So that's what I counsel people, not to go that direction.
Okay.
Well, you know, again, we are looking at what is important to you. So some people know that right from the get-go.
Some people aren't even practicing Catholics.
Right.
You know, some people aren't even that religious or that spiritual.
But you know, people change. So when you're young, so habang bata, they do this, they do that, and then pagtanda, the upbringing starts to come back. You know, this is what I used to do with my parents. Oh, I think this is important. So then what happens is, in the beginning, na bata pa sila, they go with this partner, and they think, oh, it's not that important for me to go to church. And then as they stay together, they have kids, and then it changes.
Yes.
And then now what?
Right.
If you don't have the same beliefs or the same priorities, how do you do that? So again, we go back to, if you say that you made a mistake in making that decision to be with this person who's so different from you, what do you do now? Okay. So that's why I think it's important. There are some hard and fast rules depending on what your core beliefs are, but I always say, how do you resolve the differences?
Okay, which brings me to my next question. Non-negotiables, is it safe to have that list? And how much do you stick to that? And how much do you compromise?
Well, I tell people you need to be very specific, you know, in who you're asking. For example, make a list. You know, you may not get 9 or 10 out of the 10, but maybe 9 or 8 out of the 10, and you be specific in your prayer. You ask the Lord, send me, this is the qualities that I'm looking for. And I've spoken with people who say, you know, I'm going out with Kathy, and she's beautiful and wonderful, but it's just that I think I can convert her, you know, into the faith. What we call evangeligaw, right?
Evangeligaw,
yeah,
okay.
But that's, in most cases, that doesn't work. Again, depending on the strength of one's faith, either the person can bring that that relationship over to a faith-centered relationship, or it'll take it away.
Okay. Now we're making this the way Benny, obviously a former pastor from the Saddleback Church, and now is doing counseling for couples. It is now faith-centric. Is it possible to have a relationship that's not centered on faith?
Sure.
What will it be centered on without faith?
Of course. And it can be, you know, people who have the same priorities. For example, their priority is to raise kids that are very good citizens, you know, or priority is to have children that are very well educated and they want them to go to Ivy League schools or whatever. Whatever their priorities are, again, I go back to what are your core beliefs? If you have these non-negotiables, sometimes some people don't know their non-negotiables until they're way into the marriage.
Right.
Maybe 10, 15 years later, I have people coming to me and saying, I don't love you anymore. And the other person's like, what? What happened? You know, and because of these non-negotiables, that they kind of come to a slow realization that, wow, this was important to me. And then what? You know, do you throw away the 15 years? Right? And so that's why even, I like what Benny said, even if you've been married, come because when you do premarital counseling, you figure out...
Or marital counseling.
Or marital... Well, no, I mean after you've got a divorce,
okay.
let's say, and you're on to your next relationship. Because you want to know what happened to the other relationship.
Right.
What worked and what didn't work. Because you always want to be looking at what can you do to not make the same mistakes.
Right, right.
You know?
Okay, so now we're giving advices, and we close the show with some pieces of advice. Advice to couples that are dating.
Take your time. You know, take your time and be who you are, right? Don't put on the front and always your best foot forward.
Or don't adjust too much, and then after a while...
And here's the greatest suggestion I can tell anybody. Don't settle. Do not settle.
How do you know when you're settling?
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, you might have somebody who really wants to be with someone, and they've been single for a very long time, and they're saying, well, this person is here, I want to be with this person, and I'm willing to compromise my beliefs. So then you're like, so what? Do you tell this person, no, you don't? But the thing is, my advice would be talk about a lot of things. Talk about everything. Talk about what your beliefs are, or what you, even though they're whatever they might be changing later on. Talk. How many kids do you want? Do you want, you know, this and that? Talk to each other.
Right. One word, because 30 seconds on the show. What makes a relationship work? One word.
Commitment.
Commitment. One word.
How to fight well. How to argue well.
Argue well. All right. That's not one word. But thank you so much. That's the information on the screen. If you want to talk to either Gale or Bennie, that's their information on the screen. Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something. This has been Janelle Sawyer, Kababayan in Los Angeles. I'll see you next time.